Hello? Testing? Sorry, folks. We were encountering some technical issues with OBS and the emulators that I'm running, so we are actually not going to be playing Darius Gaiden for the Sega Saturn, because that was causing my computer a whole lot of issues once I had Restream open and once I had OBS open. So we're going to be playing Darius Burst for the Sony PlayStation Portable. Another Darius game, and still a very fun one where we can kill lots of big ol' fish. Me like you to kill a big fish. Yeah, sorry, I had like opening thoughts all planned out, and then I was just encountering all these weird bogus tech issues, so, you'll forgive me if, I don't remember what I was gonna tell you about, or if, I was gonna field any open questions y'all had as we continue. Oh, I remember, it was just very stupid, I was gonna say, to quote, Keith Emerson, welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside. Come inside. Yeah, that's Carnival 9. Emerson, Lake and Palmer. Classic progressive rock group. Yeah, so this is Darius Burst. I think the 7th or the 8th or 9th game in Taito's Darius series. Taito, famously the publishers of Space Invaders, arguably the first big breakout shoot 'em up. Oh, here's our first nautical enemy, this little seahorse. Yeah, Darius game's pretty interesting. They were, I mean, I can't remember when the first one came out, but it seems like they were some of the first to not be quite so quarter-eatery as most of the scrolling shoot 'em ups that were in arcades at the time, because this has a power-up. You see there's the power-ups in the top left screen. I believe the blue is some amount of shield enhancement. I could be wrong, but you'll see I have this green glow about me, and that will absorb a certain number of hits. Once I have no green glow left, then I can be killed. But we have, like, health and stuff, and here's our first big fish boss. Big fish boss. This also, like Raystorm we played last week, this Darius Burst has a frantic jazz fusion soundtrack. Its restart system is also a lot more forgiving than the other arcade titles that came before it. I don't remember what year this was. It would have been the PSP, so sometime during the 2000s. First time I played the PSP was, I think, 2008 or 2009, though I believe it had been out for a few years before that. It was Battlefront 2, the Battlefront 2 port for the PSP. That was my first interaction with the PlayStation Portable. This is a very good level transition screen, friends. Oh, and you'll see, right now we're going to go from Zone A to Zone B, but once we pass Zone B, we'll actually be given choices as to what zone we want to progress to next. And that was a key point of the previous Darius games as well. Just giving you, the player, a little bit of agency in how you want to play the game, where you want to go, what do you want to see. We're just gonna keep blasting. Yeah, the red, I know I'm not 100% sure what the blue power-ups do, but the red power-ups enhance your guns, and then the green power-ups enhance your bombs. You can see there's little bombs arcing down from the ventral side of my hull that allow me to hit targets that are below me, while my gun, of course, is shooting out ahead of me. And you'll notice I just absorbed a little bit of gunfire because I still have this green glow. And then my super is this laser. I wanted to play Darius Gaiden because the bonus super attack in Darius Gaiden is crazy. You can, like, open up a black hole that absorbs enemy ships and enemy bullets. Very good stuff. Think Gibson. I see Think Gibson in the chat. Hello to you too, boo. We're playing Darius Burst, which I know is not the game listed on Twitter or otherwise, but Darius Gaiden was causing me some troubles, emotional and hardware. So yeah, this is Darius Burst for the PSP. Published by Taito, I think, as I said earlier, publishers of Space Invaders and a million other very nice shoot-em-ups. The Taito Corporation. Still, I think, kicking. One of Japan's more prominent World War II atomic bombs. Well, that's the theme here. We're just getting excited for the release of Oppenheimer, which I will be seeing next weekend because I refuse to see it on anything smaller than a truly IMAX-size IMAX screen. And there is only one of those in my immediate vicinity, and the theater was booked solid this weekend and most of this week, so I will be seeing it next Sunday prior to this stream. We saw Barbie 2 nights ago? Or no, yesterday morning. We saw Matinee. Matinee of Barbara. Can't think because I'm trying to kill this giant Nautilus. Yeah. I'm gonna keep playing. Excited to see Oppenheimer. Yeah, we have one IMAX-sized IMAX screen. It's not film projection, but it is was one of only 2 IMAX screens, true IMAX screens in Illinois, and then the one at Navy Pier closed, I believe, during 2020. And now the one near me is the only one. I saw Dune there. I saw Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1, which I didn't like as much as Fallout. It was good, but I liked Mission Impossible Fallout more as the Macquarie Mission Impossibles are concerned. I still think, and maybe this is a skosh of a hot take, I still think that the original Brian De Palma Mission Impossible is my favorite. It's just such a fun little spy thriller. Oh, Snake is trying to eat me up. Ian is saying the world's tallest IMAX screen is 2 hours north of me. I assume that's one of... It's in like a science museum or something. I remember there were a couple in Florida, and almost all of them were in museums. Because I think we saw Force Awakens on like a dome at some science museum in Florida. I can't remember which one. I'm not a fan of like IMAX dome projection for movies that aren't nature documentaries, because I feel like most traditionally made films are shot in such a way as to not be conducive to a domed screen. Like, it just kind of... I remember we saw Force Awakens. It wasn't the first time we saw it. It was maybe the second or third time, but I remember it warped the image in ways that I thought was weird. So, standalone, Ian's saying, a standalone screen in the middle of Georgia. Yeah, I mean, good for them if they want to do the real thing. I've only ever seen one film projected on 70mm, and it was, in fact, another Christopher Nolan film. It was Interstellar in 2014. And we drove, that was when I was at school with Kyle. I didn't see it with Kyle, but it was at the school that Kyle and I went to in Kentucky. And me and some friends drove to Nashville to see Interstellar, I believe at Opry Mills, projected on 70mm film. And that was a unique experience because so much of that movie is in the silence of space, and when you got to those scenes, you could hear the projector fluttering behind you. Very cool. Big fan. I like Interstellar a lot. I'm excited for Oppenheimer. I want to see the bomb go boom. Big bomb go boom, as historians have put it. I'm seeing also a lot of hot takes of people being like, we need to show more of like the tragedy, the aftermath of this discovery and this test. I'm like, but friends, there are so many documentaries about the fact that the bomb is maybe not a great thing for mankind to have developed. So yeah, just go watch any one of probably a dozen documentaries about the absolute atrocity the American government perpetrated on the Japanese people with its use of the atomic bomb. I don't know if that's a hot take or not. To quote Tim Rogers, everyone should try hating their home country. To paraphrase Tim Rogers. For at least a little bit of time. I'm not 100% certain what fish this giant vehicle is attempting to emulate. It's not really giving me like manta ray vibes. It's more like a shark that's got like a... I don't... But the mouth... If it was a manta ray, Ian, you feel like the mouth would be different. It would have those, you know, those two big flaps, and maybe like a huge maw that fighters came out of. That would be what I would do if I were designing a manta ray boss. It looked like a shark that was in like an armored suit. The tail also had fins that were not necessarily of a manta ray, because I think manta ray, like a stingray, just has a big long just spine of a tail, and this one definitely had like other fins, other finnage going on. I know there's a pufferfish boss later that is pretty bonkers. Goes pretty wild. Huh, huh. This makes me feel like I'm in like the hyperspace tunnel in Cowboy Bebop, which I guess Mondo, in whatever state Mondo is in right now, but I still follow them on social, and they seem to be releasing a fair amount of Cowboy Bebop merchandise at San Diego Comic-Con this year. I have the entire first season, I guess the only season of Cowboy Bebop on Blu-ray, and it looks amazing. But speaking of great science fiction properties that are coming to Blu-ray, Darius Garden. Sorry, Darius Garden. That would be... I would be very much enamored by a Chow Garden type game in which I could raise these giant metal fish if Taito were ever to do a spin-off of the Darius games. What was I talking about? Oh, Babylon 5, friends, is coming to Blu-ray in one big collection, as announced by Babylon 5 creator J. Michael Straczynski on Twitter maybe a week ago. Oh, here's the big pufferfish. You won't be able to tell for a good bit, but there's a pufferfish inside all this armor. Yeah, Babylon 5, a lot of Babylon 5 stuff happening right now. If y'all haven't seen Babylon 5, go check it out. There is a animated film on the way, I think later this summer, or maybe in the fall. And then, yeah, the whole TV series is coming to Blu-ray in a lovingly done remaster, not like the absolutely heinous Buffy collection from a few years back. Pan and scanned Buffy DVDs. You have to go all the way to the left of the screen so that giant appendages don't hit you. Yeah, Babylon 5 rocks. That's a good television program. Big fan. Ooh, here are the little lasers that follow you. So I will say, these Darius games, for what they have in great art design, or like art direction and all sorts of other design, the boss battles are maybe not as... I don't really even know where I'm going with this. It's just this battle, I've done this a couple of times now to see if this was a game that I would want to play on stream. And this battle in particular just takes a really long time. There's all this armor that you have to kill, and then the boss itself that's inside of this takes forever to kill. So while I like the fact that they're like all the bosses are sea creatures, I would like this to not take so long, because it's not like maybe a long battle in, you know, something like a Souls game where it becomes more of like this dance of learning the boss systems and you know, finding those opening... Oh, we should do... Sorry, I'm just reading the chat again. Ian is asking, when do we do the 2 games, 1 controller shmup stream? Maybe that's an Extra Life segment, because I'm unsure how we would accomplish that otherwise. But that is a really good idea. Of 2 games, 1 controller. Of course, we've seen the folks, speaking of Elden Ring, I think there was someone who beat Elden Ring on one screen with a controller and on one screen with a DDR controller with their feet. That would also be crazy for one of these games. Come on. Spin around, lose more of your armor. You see there's that little pufferfish in there, shedding off all these extra bits. Hello, sir. Shooting at me. Lasers. So many. Gonna pop in, shoot some more stuff. Yeah, this is just a really long battle. For not a lot of, maybe like, I don't know, it's just not phenomenally engaging as I'm sitting here. Even though I've died maybe 3 times. But you can see what I'm saying about like the very forgiving nature of the just being able to continue and not go straight to a game over high score screen where I put in my initials. I'm just able to kind of keep going until we go. Oh, these ones fire at you twice. They laser and then they laser again. So the pink ones only do it once, then the blue ones go twice. And there's not, none of these shmups really, except for, I think, the Donpachi games have like a health bar for the bosses, so you just have to kind of wait until they explode. Okay, do we want to go to Zone J or Zone K? My name is Jake, so we're going to pick Zone J. Be on your guard. Whew. Ah. A lot of bullets. A lot of bullets. Give me these upgrades, please. Mr. Snake. Or an eel, I would assume. Sticking with the sea creature theme, even though there are sea snakes. What is the difference between a sea snake and an eel? Somebody get on Google and tell me. Where are we? Neptune? Neptune's a blue planet with rings. Right? This is a very stupid thing. In, what will be eels can't swim, Ian is trying to tell me. I don't think that's right. In a bit of, sci-fi enthusiast posery, I did just realize, about 40 chapters into my book, that I had made this faction of colonies that I intended to be operate out of the Jovian moons, meaning the moons of Jupiter, and like a big dummy, I just included a bunch of Saturn's moons because I had forgotten that they were not moons of Jupiter. How many words am I at? I believe I've just eclipsed 69,000. But with the writing that is occurring and the rest of the outline, I'm anticipating it being somewhere between like 84 and 87 when all is said and done. I'm almost at the end. I'm like halfway through the third act. Yes, it is a nice number. I should just stop at 69,000 and then make the next part of it just be another book. But I'm not going to. I have to keep going, because if I stop it now, honestly, it probably would be an okay point to stop the book, because it would be sort of cliffhangery. Yes, I do. The question is being asked if I do shorter chapters. I talked about this, not to shill for even more of my creative ventures than I already have, but I have a Substack. I have a Substack newsletter, which I kind of started just so that like my aunts and uncles who don't live anywhere near me could have like a way to keep up with the stuff that I'm doing. And I talk about this whole process there, and that the first novel that I wrote, I didn't have any clue as to what the ins and outs of writing a novel were. I knew, like, books that I liked, but I hadn't taken, like, you know, I'm not an English lit major. I didn't take courses, writing courses on how to do all that. So I did a lot of Googling of, like, okay, what is a novel? What's a good chapter length? And a lot of the blogs and whatnot that I could find were saying that a novel minimum is usually like 40,000 words, and I was seeing a lot of that from agents and publishers as well. And a lot of places were saying that the sweet spot for chapters was like 3,000 words. Ian is saying they don't teach that in English Lit. Well, then I don't know where people come up with these numbers. But this is what the internet told me. They said novel, 40,000 words minimum, and chapters are usually, on average, like 3,000 words. And so that's what I strove to hit with my first novel. And so all of the chapters are between, like, 2,800 words and, like, 3,400 words, I think, at the most. And that one, I will say, Sibylla, is very similar, where it's 74,000 words and it's 22 chapters. But this one, I was reading Saturn and Venus by Ben Bova, and I was noticing as I was reading it that I was just flying through chapters, and sometimes I'd start a chapter and then flip the page and the next chapter would be right there. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe you can get away with writing shorter chapters. Yes, Sibylla, that is what my philosophy has become now too, is just however the chapter is, that's how the chapter is. So yeah, I'm up to like 42 chapters and like 69,000 words, because some of them are less than 1,000 words. And that was, I kind of tested those waters with my novella that will hopefully be self-published within like a month or so. It's 9 chapters and like 22,000 words. And I was not trying to hit any specific numbers with that story. This sea dragon, this is not a fish. It was a fish a minute ago, and now it is very much not. In my screenwriting class, they always told us, they're like, hey, feature length is usually 90 pages if you're averaging a minute of screen time to a page of the script, but don't force it to be anything. Like, once you've written the story, if it's not 90 pages, then it's not 90 pages. Your story is just, that's the story. And so I don't know why that didn't necessarily click for me and become a part of my prose writing. Because I do come from a screenwriting background first, and so I did have some amount of writing training in that regard. Sibylla, I'm using the novella as kind of a test for self-publishing, because I have been querying my novel, my debut novel. This one that I'm writing right now is technically the 4th novel I've started writing, and it will be the 2nd novel that I finish. But my novel, my first novel, I've been querying for like 2 years. And I'm tired of it. It's like a weird, it rides a weird couple of genre lines where it's definitely not military fiction. It's not like an old man's war or anything like that. It's closer to like something like Firefly, like the TV show, but I don't necessarily know what like when agents in their query page are like, what stuff would you comp for this? And I don't know. I can tell you what television shows it's like or what movies I liked. Querying has been a chore. I've gotten to the point where I think maybe that was the last boss. I'm not positive. Yes, Final Zone is over. Yeah, I've gotten to the point where I have gotten a couple agents who have asked for the full manuscript, which, you know, they're all different when you initially query. It's like, you know, 15 pages or 5 chapters or whatever. And I've gotten a couple who have like, oh yeah, I like, you know, your pitch in the first bit. Send me the whole manuscript, and then I guess they read the whole thing or some of the whole thing, and then they're like, I don't really know if this is for me. So I'm out there a little bit in you know. Let me talk over this final cutscene in the credits. What are we talking about in the chat? I can't scroll back up. Okay. Struggle with self. Yeah, there you go. The easy route and lose the rights, or the hard route. Have to buy everything yourself. I don't think I would do physical publishing for the novella. At least it would just be just EPUB, you know, for Kindle and whatever. But yeah, I'm super proud of my novel, and the book that I'm writing now that has 69,000 words, and I'm gonna definitely finish before the end of the summer, is a sequel to that. And I think it's a better book, but I can't like publish that first because a lot of the emotional beats for at least one of the characters are tied heavily into the events of the first book. But the novella definitely will be self-published. EPUB. What are y'all saying in chat as I'm not here looking at it? Yeah, I've been doing some research, and I would maybe want to do like an EPUB, maybe just straight through my website, where you can, you know, send me money via PayPal, and then you get a download link to the EPUB or something. Because yeah, I don't want to give Bezos anything more than he already has. Yeah, or the PDFs on like Ko-Fi or something. That's a good idea. Because I'm gonna buy. I know the Amazon Kindle, whatever, you can get like the built-in like a default ISBN. But I will be buying my own ISBN, and yeah, getting the Library of Congress number and all that jazz. Okay, we got through this in about a half an hour. Let me pull up something else, because I don't think if I go through the other branching levels on Darius Gaiden, I don't know how much more variety we will get from that. Oh, this was, I guess, in 2009. So hold on, let me go back to OBS. Oh, hold on, let me stay here while I put in my high score. And y'all can guess what my middle name is. Okay, what game are we gonna queue up next here in the shmup corner? Ye old shmup corner. Okay, here's one. This also wasn't going to get a whole playthrough, so let's play Advanced Buster Hawk Glay Lancer, which I feel a little weird about. As I understand it, they called it that in the English localization because it's a mispronunciation of what the name in Japanese actually is. Okay, hold on. Here we are. Okay, y'all see that? Are we seeing this very anime cutscene? It is not. My middle name is not Jehovah. That is, that would be an interesting. If you had hypothesized that because my legal name is Jacob, from the biblical Jacob, I would understand how you then jumped to Jehovah. But it is not that. It is also not Jebediah. It's a family name. But I'm just gonna sit through this cutscene. You're right. It's Jesus. My name is Jacob Jesus Terria. Yeah, I'll keep everybody in the loop. I'm waiting. I've got a cover artist on the hook, who I'm waiting to hear back from before I self-publish the novella. But once I hear back from them, yeah, I'm gonna shoot that thing out into the world. It's a super weird book, or a super weird story. It started as, when I was querying my novel, I just started writing a bunch of short stories based on what magazines were looking for, like their prompts or whatever. They're like, we're looking for stories like this, and I was just writing a bunch of stories. And at some point, I got in my head an idea about a world in which space flight was banned, because, like, a theocracy had taken over the Earth, and they said, God gave man the Earth, but not space. And sort of like a Tower of Babel type thing. Like, you're trying to get too close to heaven, so let's not go there. And that story ended up not really going anywhere, but I liked that nugget. And so I started writing this novella about a generation ship that several thousands of years into its voyage got taken over by theocracy, and then it became sort of like a the Israelites wandering in the desert for 40 years type thing. But instead of actually arriving at the Promised Land, they discover that the Promised Land has been blown up by a supernova some years ago. And then kind of the fallout of that. So that's what the novella is about. This cutscene is way longer than I remember it being. I don't know if any of y'all are tracking with the story, with part of the subtitles being cut off behind my face. The heavens are for God and angels only. Now, my tagline on the cover is, God doesn't want us here. Because there's then, like, another faction aboard the ship that has taken the stance of my original short story, where there's people on the ship who are like, us being in space is sinful, and we should blow up the spaceship. All right, let's get through this. Glailancer, 1992. This is another horizontally scrolling shoot 'em up. This one's neat. You can pick. You have like your main ship and then your two additional ships, and you can choose how those guns will fire. I like the search mode because it's a little fire and forget, where they will seek out enemies whilst I am just maneuvering on my own. This game's got good music, good art. I have a couple of issues with it in that sometimes the backgrounds are a little too busy, and sometimes it means that the bullets that are fired from enemies are not readable, and so you just end up flying into them. I did have some Star Destroyer-y mythos in the back of my brain as I was writing that story, because that's a lot of super what we would call super capital ship design ends up just kind of falling into nonsense as you're like, okay, well, now this ship, if you want it to have any sort of grounding in logic, this ship needs to have, its own, farm, its own little city for people to live in, apart from the actual, military systems of the ship itself. There's a lot of the Expanse kind of always in the back of my mind. The Nauvoo that then became the Behemoth and then became Medina Station throughout the course of those books and sort of throughout the course of the TV show. Even though the TV show ends at like the 5th of the 8 books, or the 9 books. I don't want to... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I can't see all of them. But that was, say what you will about The Last Jedi. The Snoke's big flying wing Star Destroyer, is designed, at least, you know, you never see this stuff in the movie. This is the stuff that's just in, like, the visual encyclopedia and everything. It's designed to be like a base for other Star Destroyers, and so it has, like, its own, like, built-in space dock for other ships, and it's got, all sorts of, you know, habitations and other sort of stuff that you would need on a ship of that size in order for it to operate with any amount of efficacy. Yeah, I like the idea of a big ship. I like the idea, it was a little bit, when we mentioned Babylon 5 earlier, a little bit like Babylon 5. I like the idea of, you know, a ship that's basically just like a giant O'Neill cylinder, where you can have, you know, rivers and trees and stuff, like, inside the ship itself. As with all of my fiction, it has, what I would call maybe an insufferable amount of, oh, here's Jake's author insert of stuff that he likes to talk about. Not in, like, an Ernest Cline type way. I'm certainly not a writer of just, like, constantly name-dropping pop culture that I like. But there is a little bit of that. But I think I explained it away in a natural enough way to the world of the story, in that it's that the main character has, like, an anthropological interest in the history of Earth, and so that's why they listen to the music of the 1970s and so on and so forth. But that's a problem with all of my stories. Oops. Maybe because that's how I talk to people. I say, hey, I like this, you should listen to it or watch it. And so then I write characters that end up doing the same thing. Ah! Is that game over? No, here we are. Here we go. Here on this little oceany world. Waffle. Sir. My baby. Who's out there? Nobody. It's nobody. Nobody is out there. Puppy. Look. Hello. Please don't get tangled in my cables. Oh, okay. Now Puppy is here. Ooh, buddy. Buddy. Nobody's out there. Sorry, we got these big sliding doors, and he loves to see who's out there and let them know that he wants to be their friend in the loudest, meanest sounding way possible. But he's just a big puppy. He's just so loud. Why are you so loud, buddy boy? What was I talking about? Space? Science fiction? Yeah, so I'm really interested in this other novel that I've started writing, which I started writing like 3 years ago, and I'm maybe like 30,000 words into it, but I really like the world and I really like the outline. But for whatever reason, I keep running into walls in the actual writing of the prose. But this is one that started as me and a buddy in college. We had an idea for a TV show that we were not like a idea for a real TV show. It's just like, wouldn't this be stupid? Called what did we call it? It was something. It was some riff off the expression "sex and drugs and rock and roll." I think maybe we called it "Space and Drugs and Rock and Roll." Because we had in our minds this idea for ships that were powered by music. Like mankind discovered some, extrasolar material that allowed them to finally build interdimensional engines, but for whatever reason, the substance is reactive to music, and so you would get all of these, you'd get all these spaceships that essentially were powered by, like, instead of like a nuclear reactor or something, you'd have like a band or a choir that powered your ship. Because we came up with all this sort of like stupid world building where we're like, oh, you could be like, fire the synth cannons, and then there'd be like a guy doing like keyboard arpeggios, and cut to the outside of the ship, and stuff would be firing. That was our stupid idea. And then I got in my mind, I started developing this world that was somewhat akin to that, where it was like the blood of these big whales that ended up powering ships, and similarly, they reacted to a specific melodic line in like this had more of like a fantasy flair, where it was like a melodic line of like if these creatures were akin to whales in space, it would be like the whale song that was able to trigger the space folding properties in their blood, and so you ended up with these ships that had like choirs aboard them that would sing this melodic line, and that's how you got from one place to the other. And I really like how that story is developing, but yeah, I just keep running into walls with it. So I ended up falling back on the universe that I had already written several tens of thousands of words in. Yeah, if you look up on Substack, I think my Substack newsletter is called Jake Terrio Creative Updates, or something akin to that. And that has a lot of stuff in there. I talk about the process of writing that first book in great detail. I think I did a 6 or 7 part series on it, because it was a feature film first, and then it was a short film, and then it was a feature film script again, and then it became a book after... When did I finish writing that? I wrote the feature in 2014 because I felt really bad about myself, because that was the same year that Interstellar came out. And then, yeah, I think we did the short film in the fall of that year. And then I probably finished writing the book in, like, 2021. Or maybe even 2020, and then we finished editing it in 2021. I can't remember. It's all in the newsletter. If you go check the newsletter. Big laser ships. Please don't kill me. But yeah, I really like that story. I really like that world. My editor tells me that it is good, and I believe them. I don't think that they would be blowing smoke about that. So I have no reason to believe that it is not actually good, but it is not what agents are looking for right now. Also, I think it's if there's one thing that I've noticed in agents' manuscript wish lists of the past 2 or 3 years, my book is not horny enough for most of what sci-fi agents are looking for right now. Because not many people are looking for anything, military fiction adjacent at the time. But everybody's like, well, if there's, sci-fi romance or sci-fi this, sci-fi that. And I'm like, I've got characters who are in, romantic relationships with one another, but it's not like horned in any capacity. Yeah, it's relationships my editor liked. Yeah, it's like the first book, the one that I've been querying for so long, is like Die Hard meets Firefly, because it's a bunch of people that get trapped on a space station, and they have to try to get off of it, and get back to their ship, get the band back together. Everybody gets separated, and then it's getting the band back together. And I think it's really good, but yet to be published. There is one physical copy, because my wife printed me a single physical edition for Christmas last year. And that was very cool. And I immediately opened it to like a random page and found 2 typos. Oops. So that will be the edition that gets like, if I get famous and then I die, that one will have great value. I've since fixed the PDF. But the PDF that got used to print the physical version does have like 2 typos in it. Bye, Ian. We'll probably only be here for like another 8 or 9 minutes. We'll go to the hour. Top of the hour. And then maybe next week we'll actually play Dodonpachi, which is the game I really want to get to. But I haven't been playing yet because I want to find good high-res key art to put in the like our schedule for the week image that goes on Discord, and I've yet to be able to find good key art, so that's why I haven't been adding the game to the queue. 'Cause I'm crazy. I have a certain standard of quality that I wish to set. Yes, that's okay. Was that... Oh, a little better than last time. Because we got a little bit farther, I guess. I do want to continue. I don't want to change how my guns fire. Stage 3. Let's go! In this cave. Oh, immediately flew into the ceiling. The other interesting thing about this is you can see there's the speed of that third box on the top. You can change that, and it doesn't change the scrolling speed of the level. It changes how quickly your ship reacts to input controls. So, like, I can just move, immediately fly into enemies. I can move around the screen faster, at faster speed, quote unquote. But I like 3, because 4 is a little too frantic. So I like 2 or 3. So we'll see if I can keep from... Man, oh man. Amateur hour over here. Just slamming into the floor. I am, just speaking of word counts and things that I'm writing, I am also in the midst of writing a script about my experience with all these SHMUPS that I am about 6,000 words into, which is much longer than the usual scripts that I write for Subpixel. I just keep talking about this kind of game as I have had several little moments of self-reflective introspection. Like, well, why do I like these games so much? Let's unpack that for 6,000 words. Learning things about myself and about the world. Stay tuned for this video whenever it will come out, probably in September, I think, because there's already a video in the August slot that Will is working on. So this one will probably be September. And you can learn about the metric tonnage of quarters that Space Invaders was earning every week in the United States in 1981. I did the math. And it's a lot of quarters. Let's just say that right now. Because I guess there is, unsurprisingly, there is a standard. There is a standard for sizes and weights of U.S. currency as outlined in the United States Code, the U.S. Code. I think Title 31 is all the financial rules, if I remember correctly. But yeah, that's it's going to be a dense video, and we're going to talk about a lot of video games. This is interesting. I don't remember this level where it starts scrolling upward. So I don't really like what my partner guns are doing with this like flamethrowery bit that doesn't have a lot of range to it. I like stuff that goes all the way to the edge of the screen. Yeah, we talked on the local chat about some other more contemporary shmups that I've been playing. I added Roto Force, Accidentally Awesome's Roto Force, to Subpixel's Game of the Year contender list, which just came out this week, and is like it's like a Tempest-like, I think is how we landed in local chat. A Tempest-like, where it's your character is confined to traveling around the circumference of a given geometric shape, and that's how your mobility is. Your mobility is constrained to that shape, but then you're grappling with enemies. You're contending with enemies inside that shape. It's really fun, and only like $8, maybe $12. I can't remember what it was on Steam, but it's been really fun, and I've been playing a lot of it. And maybe I'll play it if we continue this series any longer. I know Ian's been cooking up some stuff that I'm unsure when we'll put that on the schedule. This is, and always will be a filler series until something more formal gets added to the docket. Here we have arrived at the hanging flesh bag. What is this thing going to open up into? I don't know if I've ever gotten this far. Nor will I ever get this far again. Excuse me for kind of burping into the mic. Wait, I went too far. I know how the alphabet works. Okay, but this will probably be the end. That is okay. Okay, well now I have the top 3. Oh, and the 9th slot. I guess I did play this at some point much earlier. The 9th slot is also me. Yes, this has been Sunday SHMUPS with me, your host, Jake Terrio. Let's go back to this screen. Lower the music just a skosh. Yeah. This has been Sunday SHMUPS. If you see, it says SHMUP time up there. What are all the things I'm supposed to... I never host streams, so I never know what I'm supposed to say. I am at _JakeTerrio on Twitter, and I think Instagram, and I will never be on social media again. If Twitter ends up collapsing into a ball of fire, you will be able to find me nowhere. This has been Subpixel. You can tune in on Tuesday. I believe Ian and Will are playing Exoprimal. Tune in on twitch.tv/subpixelteam. And then we have a new video. No, not this week. This week we'll be doing our wish list roundup for games on our local chat, which you can listen to live 9 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/subpixel. Our local chat podcast, and we have a segment on there what we call Wish List Spotlight, and at the end of the month we do our Wish List Roundup, in which I just round up all those games and I put them in one easy to digest video for all of you to watch. Yeah, I think that's about it. Just tune in maybe next Sunday. Like I said, Ian's got another couple series cooking, so I don't know if this will still be, if I will be back next Sunday, or if something else will be in this slot, but we will definitely have something next weekend at twitch.tv/subpixel. Thank you, Sibylla, especially, for tuning in, and anybody else that might be lurking in the chat. Yes, this has been Sunday SHMUPS. Thanks for watching. See you later.